Hey everybody, this is KennedyHawk for the month of November 2024, and we're starting a new video format where I'm going to go over some of the deck lists that I've been tinkering with in October that I'm excited to play in November. So let's kick off this new video series. So, this is a new video series. It's going to be a monthly series. I'm going to try to release it on the first Monday of each month as our weekly video on the MCM video feed. It's going to be 4 new decks that I've been tinkering with, or old decks that I'm revisiting, that I plan to play in the next month, that I've sort of been tinkering with to get ready to take to my game group or play solo when on travel or playing on my own. So, these are the decks I plan to play in November 2024. I have an Iceman Leadership deck called No More Mr. Ice Guy that's all about snow clones. An Iceman Protection deck that Regal Games TV has been helping me with on Discord. We'll talk all about that. A Black Panther Aggression Revisit, one of my favorite archetypes from the beginning of the game, is back with some of the newest cards and some of the new cards in the Mutant Waves. And then I made a Nova Justice deck that I'm just excited to try out with some cards that help make Nova Force a little more reliable. So let's jump right into this first deck. It is Iceman Leadership. I talked about this deck a little bit in my Iceman Hero Primer from October, and it is super fun. I think I'll have a gameplay video of this drop next week, but I find Iceman Leadership to be super enjoyable. At first, I thought Snow Clones were kind of a trap ally, right? They take no consequential damage when the villain has Frostbite, but they can't have upgrades, and there's all these other restrictions they can't thwart, so they don't help Iceman in all the ways you need them to. But I forgot there's a ton of awesome readying abilities within leadership. So here we're using all those readying abilities, comboing with the snow clones, trying to ready Iceman a couple times, and use multiple frostbites to let U.S. Agent just be able to block for us. So Iceman and his snow clone buddies can take it to the villain. So in this deck we've got 9 allies. It seems like a typical leadership X-Men deck. We've got Angel, Beast, Forge, Pixie, Professor X are 2 snow clones, and then U.S. Agent. We've got 3 copies of 2 Miar X-Men, and that's mainly just to help make, because we're going to keep these ice clones out, to make Utopia more efficient at readying Iceman to apply multiple copies of Frostbite. We've got other events from the hero kit. We've got Arctic Attack, Chill Out, and Ice Blast, obviously. Then we got 3 copies of Get Ready. You can't use Game Time with the ice clones because they can't have training upgrades attached. So a bit of a bummer there, but still pretty fun with just the get readies. For player side schemes, we bring build support and our 3 basic resources, and then we bring a ton of supports to pick from for build support. Build support's not usually a huge one for Iceman. I mean, you get Ice Wall, but meh. So now we've got 3 copies of Command Team, because that's going to let us set up to have these amazing turns where our snow clones just go wild, attacking multiple times. I've got 2 copies of R&D Facility, so I can pump up those snow clones on the turns that I want them to attack multiple times. 1 copy of Team Training just for some more health on my allies, Triskelion and Utopia. One thing I tried in this deck was to have lead from the front in there, and I just couldn't fit in the 2-cost lead from the front and all these other things to get the snow clones to ready. But if you can make that work out, you can make those snow clones even bigger. For upgrades, we've just got our Iceman upgrades. This is mainly a multiplayer deck that I've been playing with our group, so let's dive into some of the combos here. So for Iceman, obviously we've got our freeze ability. When Iceman makes a basic attack or defense against an enemy, we're going to put a set-aside copy of Frostbite and attach it to that enemy. And then we've got our snow clones that we're building around. They cannot have upgrades attached, they have 2 attack, and they take 1 less consequential when attacking an enemy with Frostbite attached. So Iceman is going to want to attack the villain, get Frostbite placed on the villain, and then let the snow clones just kind of go wild. So we're going to be using Get Ready and Command Team to ready those snow clones multiple times and get off multiple attacks as often as we can. We've got U.S. Agent as well, right? And he can be really strong if we want to use him to defend against the villain. Since we're putting Frostbite on the villain's going to have minus some attack. So if we could get enough copies of Frostbite on the villain, U.S. Agent can just sort of chump block every turn, but not actually chump block, like block, and maybe take 1 damage or 2 damage, and put a Retaliate up onto the villain. I've even seen him take 0 damage off of like a Rhino, which has been crazy. So we're going to ready Iceman as many times as we can and apply as many Frostbites to the villain as we can. So we're going to want to get Utopia down. We're going to want to use our Perception to hopefully hit an ice-traded card. We are going to be flipping in this build, not building around Ice Slide or anything like that. So we're going to be shuffling a lot of ice cards back into our deck. So hopefully we can get 2 readies right there, and we'll use to me our X-Men to make sure we're constantly getting X-Men allies out as cheaply as possible. All right, let's move on to deck number 2, Iceman Protection. Here we've got a pretty fun deck that was inspired by Regal Games TV on our Discord, so major shout out and thanks to them. This is all about readying and attacking, which is a deck type that's been around for a while in Protection, but I think it works really well with Iceman because you don't have to defend because you can get so many copies of Frostbite played onto the villain. We are going to want to maintain hero form to combo on Ice Slide. We want to get Ice Slide out and not have to flip back down, forcing us to get rid of it. It is solo workable, and it has been super fun to play. So let's go through the deck and then some of the combos that are in it. So for allies, we've got mainly allies that are going to help us maintain hero form. We've got things like North Star, we've got it's either Sync or Cinch, I can never say his name, and Triage, Professor X, things that are going to help us just survive while we're getting set up. And then we've got a ton of events. We've got 3 copies of Ever Vigilance. I have 3 copies of What Doesn't Kill Me and 2 copies of Leading Blow. For our side schemes, I have a build support and a superpower training, and then I'm including 1 copy of Preservation just to give me a little bit extra healing to help me stay in hero form for as long as I can. For supports, I'm going to have X-Jet and Utopia as my included cards, and then obviously a Deft Focus, and then I'm including a Soaring Acrobatics, because since we're going to try to get Ice Slide out and then keep it out forever, we're going to have Aerial forever. So let's take advantage of that +1 attack to make sure things like Leading Blow do get to go off. Now in the version that Regal had posted on Discord, he had some other cool things like Taunt and Leading Blow in there. I tried those out. They weren't my playstyle to have that many copies of Leading Blow because sometimes it wouldn't trigger, but it was super cool to see other people try out different things, especially Taunt, because if you can get that villain down to 0 attack, you can force an activation towards you to clear all of those Frostbites and then reapply them again with all those cards you draw, which sounds amazing. All right, so we're talking all about Ice Slide, and this is a card that I definitely call the trap card in the Hero Primer video, and now I'm loving it. So, eating my own words. But it's a 2-cost upgrade. Iceman gets +1 thwart, +1 attack, +1 defense, and the aerial trait with the forced response. After you change to Alter Ego form, shuffle this card into your deck. That's the part that's a bummer. So we don't want to have to flip down ever, which means we need to apply a ton of Frostbites or defend a lot to maintain hero form so we don't lose too much health when the villain attacks us. So how are we going to maintain hero form? We put a lot of things in here to help with that. So we have things like Triage. After Triage enters play, heal 2 damage from an X-Men character, aka Iceman. We've got Preservation that you're just going to spend as a resource to get extra healing onto your character without having to flip down. We could run things like Med Team, but I found these more useful because Triage can block for you as well. I put in North Star. When a boost card is turned face up, you can deal 1 damage to North Star to cancel all the boost icons on that card. So that's really good because if you have North Star out and you know the villain's attack, you don't have to worry. You can know exactly how many copies of Frostbite you have to apply to be able to take no damage from the villain, which feels a-okay. And then if you do get that working, you can use Triage to heal North Star and sort of constantly always know exactly how many defense or Frostbites you need applied. We also have Defiance that works just like North Star, so Defiance is going to be when a boost card on an attacking enemy would be turned face up, discard it instead, so you just get rid of that boost card so that you know exactly how many copies of Frostbite need to be applied to the villain. What Doesn't Kill Me is really great. While paying for this, you have to pay with at least 1 physical resource, but you heal 2 damage from your hero and ready your hero. So this is going to help us maintain hero form by healing us, but also by readying Iceman so we can apply yet another Frostbites to the villain, really reducing their ability to push damage. So here's our readying cards. We've got obviously Utopia as well, but we have What Doesn't Kill Me, Leading Blow, and Ever Vigilance. Ever Vigilance is also only going to go off if we're aerial, so we need to get that Ice Slide, which is another reason for running Superpower Training and making sure we get that Ice Slide out, which is not normally the card you would grab with Superpower Training. And how are we going to get Leading Blow to work, right? Leading Blow is from Drax's pack, something like that. Tactic, Hero Interrupt. When your hero makes a basic attack, discard the top card of the encounter deck. Reduce your hero's attack for that attack by the number of printed boost icons on that card. If this attack still deals damage, ready your hero. So we're just using this to try to push 1 damage and get 1 more Frostbite onto the villain. So we can use this with Soaring Acrobatics once we have our Ice Slide out. So that's going to push us up to 4 attack. And if we have Sync or Cinch, depending on who you ask in my family how you pronounce their name, you can get to 5 attack, which is usually going to be able to eat through that boost card. And there you have it. Protection Iceman, super fun. I've really been enjoying it. All right, for the next two decks, we're going to go back in time in the Wayback Machine, especially with this first deck, all the way back to the core set. So as soon as Yarnbjorn came out, one of my favorite decks to build was Black Panther Aggression. I found it super fun. You get a ton of attacks off with him because when you play Wakanda Forever, you get 2 free attacks. You can pay those 2 physicals and put a bunch of damage all over the place. Not even using that anymore, but I wanted to revisit just Black Panther Aggression in general. It was a super fun deck type. There's a ton of cards that have come out since the last time I've played it, so let's see what new is happening with T'Challa, with the Mutant Wave, and even some of the waves before that. How do we monopolize on Vibranium? And I really wanted to use the card Follow Through, so we made a solo playable Black Panther Aggression deck. It's all about pushing damage onto the villain and making sure that nothing overthreats. All right, so we've got our 5 allies. We have Angela to pull out minions because we're going to try to be doing overkill damage with follow through. We have Hulk, we have Spider-Girl, we have Throg, and we obviously have our 2-cost Shuri that's going to help us fish out the 12 crazy amount of upgrades that are in our deck. For events, we've got our 5 copies of Wakanda Forever, 1 copy of Ancestral Knowledge, and then we've got 3 copies of Looking for Trouble and 3 copies of Mean Swing. Looking for Trouble is mainly to make sure we can get allies out so that our overkill actually matters. For player side schemes, I brought Build Support, Superpower Training, and Lock and Load. Normally you're using Shuri to build out your upgrades, but now that we have Superpower Training, Black Panther has multiple ways to make sure that those upgrades come out as quickly as possible, which is really awesome. Build Support helps us find the Golden City, but in case we draw it early on, we want to be able to have one other support, so we also included Hall of Heroes as a support. Now, Black Panther comes with 3 copies of Vibranium. You might not need more resources than that. So I also included the 3 basic resources, but your mileage may vary. You might find that you don't need those. But for me, I have so many 2-cost cards. I found them helpful still. So for upgrades, we've got our 4 Black Panther upgrades. I have 2 copies of Follow Through, 3 copies of Hand Cannon, and 3 copies of Marked. Let's dig into this deck. So first, let's just talk about cost curve. The reason I have those 6 2-cost resources is this isn't a very expensive deck, but it does have 15 cards that cost 2. In fact, everything in the deck costs 2 or less, which is amazing. That means if you draw a Vibranium, it can pay for any other card in your deck. You don't have to combine it with anything else. It is just going to pay for it. So that opening turn, when you add a Black Panther upgrade to your hand, there's a good chance you'll draw 2 2-cost resource, 2 resource providing resources, a Black Panther upgrade, and another 2-cost upgrade to just dump to the table, or a 2-cost ally, which is amazing. And that's only going to take you 3 cards plus the extra card you add to your hand. So you'll have 3 cards left over. So those other 3 cards could pay for 1 more 2-cost card. So you could be dumping 3 2-cost cards onto the table right from turn 1. So we have Lock and Load in here, which is really fun with Black Panther. This is one of the things I was most excited about. It's only 2 thwart, so in solo, when you put this down, you can immediately thwart it with Black Panther, and it's going to let you go search for a weapon upgrade with a cost of 3 or less and put it into play. Guess what? 2 of Black Panther's most popular upgrades are also weapon upgrades, so you can afford to not grab Panther Claws right away and grab your Vibranium Suit or your Tactical Genius, because you know that Lock and Load is going to help you find that upgrade later, which to me is amazing. We also have our copies of Hand Cannon, because eventually you're going to have your 4 Black Panther upgrades down, and if you draw into Lock and Load late, you still want to have something you can pull out. The one big advantage of these weapon upgrades with the Black Panther ones is that they don't have to exhaust to do anything. So you can use them for Mean Swing, which was also in our deck, combine that with Hand Cannon, and get +5 on Black Panther's attack and overkill, which is just crazy pants. Alright, so what is Shuri grabbing? Normally she's grabbing Black Panther upgrades, but with Locked and Load and the initial Black Panther upgrade you get, you might not need her to do that. So we have a ton of other upgrades for her to pick from, because she doesn't only have to focus on upgrades from the hero kit. We can grab copies of Follow Through and get those onto the board. That's going to increase our damage from our Hand Cannon. It's going to increase our damage against marked minions and all sorts of other things. Again, we've got Marked in here, so I have 3 copies of Marked, so Shuri can always grab this and use it as a resource. Worst case is she uses it as a resource. Best case is she puts it on a minion, which gives all our attacks against that minion overkill, even our Panther Claws and other things, which can be super cool. And we can also grab those hand cannons with Shuri. And then how are we going to get minions out to do this overkill combo with? We've got Angela and Looking for Trouble to make sure that we see minions on the table so that we can combo and get this excess damage. Follow through is a super cool card that I just have not unlocked enough builds for myself with yet, and I was really excited to try this one out. It has been a blast. I think the most I have done is I had 2 mean swings and 2 hand cannons out, and I had my 2 Black Panther weapon upgrades. So with those 4 weapons, which is a lot, right? That's an 8 resource investment. I was able to do a basic attack that added plus 10 attack, and then the follow through added just 1 more, which made it that much more exciting. So definitely check it out. I have had a blast with it. All right, the last deck is Nova Justice. Just go boom. Unleashed Nova Force has always been a card people have tried to build around, and in the past it's kind of felt like a trap card. You try to build your whole deck around it, you try to play your whole game around it, and you end up just like doing a lot of nothing while you wait for your combo to go off. But there's a lot of consistent ways for us to get this superpower event into our hand. So we're going to take advantage of that, and take advantage of the fact that we don't only have to use one way or another to find side schemes, but we can use player side schemes, so that when we do have Unleashed Nova Force, we can potentially clear multiple player side schemes that have been left out there and lowered to adjust Nova's threshold, so we can draw as many cards and get our Unleashed Nova Force engine going. The key to Unleashed Nova Force is you want to get a couple things defeated and draw cards without having to spend too many cards, so that you can just go while later and like make this engine not infinite, but very, very solid. All right, so in this deck, we've got some allies with us. We have Banshee, Eros, and Professor X. They can all confuse minions. Those are there because with this Unleashed Nova Force, we might want to confuse minions, flip down, use Jesse to shuffle in our world mines, and be able to like set up a big combo with Unleash Nova Force. So being able to confuse a ton of minions, super good. We've got Hope Summers, who can go fish a superpower event out of our deck, and we've got Ironheart. For our events, I have 3 copies of Assess the Situation, 3 copies of Clear the Area, 3 copies of One Way or Another, and then our Nova events, our Force Field Projection, our Light Speed Flight, our Pot Shots, and our Unleashed Nova Force. So Assess the Situation is just to set up that big turn for Unleashed Nova Force. Our connection to the world mines already don't count against our hand size, so if we've played Assess the Situation, 2 of them maybe, we're going to draw up to 7 cards. That might actually be 9 cards if those world mines are in our hand. That's like a quarter of our deck in our hand at the start of our turn. That's what we need to set up a huge Nova Force turn. Now, I haven't included every player side scheme that I could. I didn't include the one that discards minions, because I want those minions up there so I can potentially get rid of them with bot shots. And I didn't include the superpower training, because the only identity-specific upgrade you can get is your helmet, which you should already have in play if you're setting up this big wombo combo. That being said, if you are playing this in multiplayer, I call it multiplayer adjustable, because you should probably swap that in to help out your teammates, which they will not complain about. So we do have build support, Generation X, Lay the Trap, and Specialized Training. Specialized Training just helps us get that extra 1 attack or thwart that we might need to defeat these side schemes. Generation X is really nice because it's going to let us add an identity-specific event to our hand. So if we've already played Unleash Nova Force, we can go grab whether it be Pot Shot or Light Speed Flight that we need. If we haven't played Unleash Nova Force yet, we can go grab it and then play it and then start our combo or set up our combo for the future. For resources, I have our 2 copies of Connection to the World Mind. I put in 2 copies of Everyday Hero and 2 copies of Passion for Justice, which came out in the Phoenix pack. This is really good at helping you stretch your scheme capabilities to get that 3 scheme removal that a lot of side schemes need to be defeated. This is really nice with Clear the Area. This is really nice just with your basic thwart for making sure those side schemes get cleared so that you can trigger Unleash Nova Force. I especially love Clear the Area with Unleash Nova Force if there's a lot of 3 threat side schemes out there, because you'll end up drawing 2 cards and readying afterwards, which is just bonkers. We've also got a Quinn Carrier in here, which might seem awkward because that can only be played if you're an Avenger. That is specifically in there for build support. Nova loves wilds so much, but we haven't included any wild cards outside of our resources. So we want to make sure that just not only counting on his helmet, that we can have a couple ways for Nova to see wild cards and really go crazy. We've got Deft Focus, Heroic Intuition, 3 copies of Skilled Investigator to help out the team and yourself, and our Supernova helmet. So not too many things to look at here. Just go boom, use that Unleash Nova Force. So again, if you haven't seen this card before, it is bonkers. It is a 1-cost event that's a superpower, max 1 per round, hero action until the end of the round. Each time Nova defeats an enemy or removes the last threat from a scheme, ready Nova and draw a card. And if you don't remember, when you use one of Nova's basic powers, you're going to ready his helmet, which provides a wild resource. So you can sort of like chain an infinite number of events by constantly defeating things and readying the two and drawing cards if there's enough things out there. With player side schemes, as we get more, if we get more, it'll be really nice to see how many we can load into Nova's deck, because the main player side scheme clearer is Cable, but not everybody wants to play Cable, and it could be really cool if you can get Unleash Nova Force to draw you into those side schemes so that you can provide those bodies for yourself, or those side schemes for yourself to defeat. So how are we going to make Unleash Nova Force a little more consistent with the Mutant Wave? There's 2 new cards that are going to help with that. One is Generation X, so it's a Victory 0. We don't care about this first part. Each X-Men character gets +1 thwart. Doesn't matter. But we care about the when defeated. Each player may search their deck and discard pile for an identity-specific event and add it to their hands. This lets you put Unleash Nova Force in your hand. It costs 0. You could play it several turns ahead of time and wait until you've set up the stage, defeat Generation X to start your turn, and then go find that Unleash Nova Force and go wild. We also have Hope Summers, so Hope Summers gains the trait of each trait on your identity. Don't care. And then we have a response. After you play Hope Summers from your hand, search your deck for a superpower card and add it to your hand. Guess what's a superpower card? Just about everything in Nova's kit, but specifically Unleash Nova Force. Like I mentioned earlier, Quint Carrier, kind of a weird thing. It's similar to Make the Call if you haven't seen that ruling before. With Make the Call, it's like you can ignore play restrictions from things in your discard pile because you're going to put them into play. And similar here, you're going to search your deck and discard pile for support with a cost of 3 or less and put it into play. So we're going to put the Quint Carrier into play, meaning we get around its play restrictions, which unlocks it for this Wild 11 hero. So, thanks for watching the first monthly What Decks is Kennedy Hawk Playing. What decks are you playing in November? I would love to hear about them in the comments. Please drop them in the comments below so we can document like what were people playing in November 2024 when this game's hopefully around in 3 or 4 years. We can come back and say, hey, what cool decks should we revisit with the new cards that have come out? Specifically, I'm really interested, and this is my favorite thing to do, is to see how recent releases have shaken up old hero builds. So I'd love to see your decks for that. Have fun playing Champions in the month of November. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe, share to your friends, and have a great time. All right, see you next week, everybody.